Please allow me to introduce myself. I'm a man of well and tale. I've been around for a long, long year. So many men sold and fed. I was there when Jesus cried, and his moment of doubt and fear made them sure that the pilot washed his hands and sealed his fear. Pleased to meet you. Hope you guess my name. Oh yeah. Oh, what's bothering you? It's dead to love now again. I stuck around St. Petersburg when I saw it was a time for a change. I killed the song and its ministers and the stage I screamed in bed. I wrote a take and the general's red with the blitzkrieg red and the body stayed. Pleased to meet you. Hope you guess my name. Oh yeah. Oh, bothering you. Head to rough my game. I watched the glee while your kings and queens fought for 10 decades for the gods they made. I shouted out, who killed the Kennedys? When after all, it was you and me. Pleased to meet you. Hope you guess my name. Oh yeah. Oh, what's bothering you? It's to love my game. Just every cop is a criminal, and all your sinners say. As heads tails, just call it Lucifer. I'm in need of some respect. So if you meet me, have some courtesy, have some sympathy, have some taste. You know you're well known.
Am I your orange host tonight? I don't know if the lights are making me orange again. How are you guys? Me too. Hope you guessed my name. Yeah, no white guy dance for you guys tonight, right? My wife said no more of that. Jimmy Fast, yo, how are you? Dave Oren, Davio 22, my brother from another mother. Alan K, Hooley, yes. You guys are still, I know you guys need to learn how to make that transition from one room to the other. Anagram, how are you doing there? Oompa Loompa, home purist, right? I look orange, thank you. All right, we're gonna have to shut this show down. That was a cover of Sympathy for the Devil by a group called the Delta Bombers. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Sympathy for the Devil is definitely one of my favorite Rolling Stones songs of many. I'm a Rolling Stones fan. Hope you guys are too. Anyways, tonight again, so hello to all you night owls out there. This is Fennsomnia, your non-PC, beer drinking, thrill of the chase talking show. Up late at night, you got Finn on the brain, you can't sleep, like Hooley said, you're laying on your pillow, you got the poem going through your head, and you gotta chat, you gotta talk with somebody, you gotta listen to somebody like me rattle on about the chase. So this is where you come to Fennsomnia. You don't know when it's gonna come. Half the time I tell you, half the time I don't. Again, that's the fun part of it, you know. I think when I think of like some of the other FenTube shows out there, I think, you know, everybody's prepared. They've got all their notes. They've got everything ready, you know, and they're ready to go. But, you know, with the flip side, I just go live sometimes and you guys just never know. And you're like, holy crap, you know, we got a show. We got to go watch this. So anyways, cheers to everybody out there. I think Jimmy Fast might have been once again the FRB. So cheers to you. Digital Treasure Map. So you jumped in there. Steve Wayne, Sir Crow, how are you? Charles Clement, how are you doing? Yes, Davio, it's beer o'clock. You're ready. Justin Minotaur Marino, good to see you in there. Faith Hunter as well, good to see you. All right. So, guys, I know I kind of teased a little bit that I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of where I'm going to go with the show a little bit here. You know, the flip side has always been, you know, a little bit more edgier than any other shows out there. We're kind of the beer drinking, non-PC, thrill of the chase talking show. You know, colorful metaphors fly out. Some people get angry, they hang up, they leave, they say some bad words. You know, there's been a lot of fun things and odd things that have obviously happened on the flip side. So because, you know, we're about drinking beer, whiskey, or wine or whatever on the show, we use colorful metaphors, everything else. We tend to be the show that's, you know, not really tailored for the kids. You know, this is the show, it's more for us mature adults. You know, we're just humans talking about this. Take the kids, put them off to the side. You know, this is not the show for the kids, obviously. There's plenty of other shows out there that talk about the chase and are more, you know, politically correct, more mild-mannered, and are going to be on the prime times. That's just never been the flip side. But I've kind of, you know, here last week when I did a Fennsomnia, I had, you know, Bill Gorman joined me. I don't know if some of you guys got to watch that one, but it was a lot of fun, you know, having Bill on here and talking about his ideas. And Bill and I are on completely different spectrums as far as, you know, imagination and logic. Not to say that Bill isn't logical or I'm not imaginative, but we are. I think a lot of people would agree we're kind of on different spectrums. But it was kind of a fun show to do with Bill, and it got me thinking about, you know, what I really want to do with the flip side and how to continue to adjust and go with the flow. And I think what people enjoy about this show versus some of the other shows. So I kind of started thinking I'd like to make it a little bit more regular. I've had some people, you know, email me and send me messages on various forums kind of hinting towards this. And I think what I want to do is I want to kind of take the Tuesday night spotlight. And what I mean by spotlight is I want to make that kind of a regularly scheduled program and a normal time. And what I mean by normal time is normal flip side time. This is not going to be a 6-7 o'clock show, because this is not, again, I don't want this show to be, you know, for the kids. This is not for your 13, 14-year-old kids, grandkids, whatever else. This is for us adults that don't mind somebody drinking a beer, you know, dropping a curse word every once in a while to get a point across or whatever. And that's the kind of crowd that I think I appeal to or try to appeal to, is just the normal average Joe or Jane, you know, out there. Cheers to you all. Mike Nodine, how are you? Minotaur, I'll touch on that a little bit. But you know, it's kind of like the flip side is kind of like the Howard Stern show of the chase community, for a better lack of words. And everybody else, you know, has got their kind of niche. They're more Today Showish. And I want us to be a little bit more edgy, have fun, and be able to talk about stuff like, you know, somebody going cray-cray on one of the, you know, the forums. I want to be able to talk about those things and not be fearful of talking about them. You know, it's not obviously popular topics like that, but there's plenty of other stuff out there to talk about. So when I want to do these Tuesday evening shows, and what I'm thinking about calling it, and I'd like to get some of your guys' feedback on this. You guys, most of you may not know, I can put my email address in here. I'd love to get some feedback from you guys on this, and I'm putting it in here for all you. That is my email address. It's my first name, SEAN, then the abbreviation for New Mexico, @hotmail.com. So it's all one word, you know, Sean, and then NM@hotmail.com. So there's 2 N's in there. Be careful with that. So I'd really like to get some feedback from you guys, but I want to make it, for a better lack of words, if you ever watched the Joe Rogan Experience, where Joe's generally talking one-on-one with another, you know, individual about various topics. And these topics can be, you know, I mean, across the complete spectrum of different things. I want it to be really kind of more tailored, obviously, to the chase. But what I really want to do is I want to bring, you know, other searchers into the show. And I'm not talking about, you know, all the normal people we see every time, all the other Fenn tubers out there, the people that have, you know, have kind of gone through the circuit, so to speak, of the Fenn tube shows. Not that I don't enjoy having those people on, and I want to be able to talk with those people. DeCall's always been a good friend of mine and talking, you know, other people as well, Mike Davis and other people that I have good relationships with in the chase. I still want to have those people on, and we'll still do, you know, shows, you know, that are discussion and panel driven. But I think that what I want to call this Tuesday night show is called The Big Picture with Sean or whatever we'll call it. But it'll be like a 1 hour show that'll be topic driven by the guest. So that guest, whoever that person comes in, whether it's, you know, Justin Minotaur Marino and he wants to talk about butt crack rock or whatever, we talk about that subject. And then we can also go off on tangents of politics. We can go on tangents of drama in the chase, you know, stuff that's going on behind the scenes, all that kind of stuff. But it's really going to be more focused on the guest. And it's not really going to be like an interview. It's just more like a one-on-one conversation with that person, and then taking questions, you know, from the audience, so to speak, where, you know, they'll send it to the flip side and I'll ask it of Justin or GCG or Gregory I see in here or Alan K, whoever comes on. I'd really personally like to see, you know, people that really haven't been on some of the Fenn tube shows. I'd like to get brand new searchers in here and get their idea and just listen to them. You know, it's fun, you know, and rekindling that connection I think we all have with the chase when we first got in this, and you know, seeing things that they're going down that we all went down with them. So I'd really like to get some of your guys' feedback on that. The show, it won't start this Tuesday. It will start the following Tuesday, which is July 2nd. And it will, again, it's going to be a little bit later show. I'm kind of back and forth whether it's going to be like in the 8 o'clock Mountain Standard Time or the 9 p.m. Now, guys, I realize that greatly affects all of you East Coasters out there, because 9 o'clock my time is 11 o'clock your time on a Tuesday. I don't know many people that have Wednesday off. So for you to come on at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday and listen for an hour or two, I completely understand. And so the shows will stick around. They're not going to be like some of my Fennsomnias where, you know, I'll keep them live and keep them on there for a day or so and then they'll go off. These will stay on and they will be numbered, like, you know, the big picture #1, and then whoever the guest is maybe in the title of that. So if there's somebody, you know, you want to go back and watch it, you can catch them on that too. Jimmy Fast, no, that's around the 4th of July weekend. The plans are not to do that, but you never know. We are the flip side. We never know what we're going to do, right? Cheers. So yeah, I kind of want to have fun with it. So interested to hear some of your feedback. I'm interested. I've already got a few people that I've talked to that are interested in coming on. I'm still in contact with the Ronnie and Lou with Gallagher Entertainment, or Men Are So Smart. We're planning on doing a show with them. I think Ronnie right now has the book, if you watch Mass this weekend. So he is reading the book. And if you haven't gone and watched this past Mass with Men Are So Smart, great show. Lou finally read the book and gave some of his interpretation. I think he did an outstanding job of reading back the chapter Tea with Olga and giving some of his feedback on it. So I thought that was a great show. If you haven't watched that, definitely go back and watch those guys. But we are in contact with them and talking with them about having them come on the show. They may be the first guest. It depends on, again, their schedule and working out with those guys right now. Because they're not really into doing the live shows. They're more into the production that they do, and that's perfectly fine. I just find the live shows much easier to do. So that's what we do here. And then there's a couple other guests that you know, that I'm very excited to potentially have on the big picture and be able to communicate with them and get to know them, and the search community know them a little bit more. One key thing that I've got to let all you guys know is that the big picture, one of the main rules for this show, if you even want to call it a rule, is you have to be willing to put your face on camera. Now, I'm not telling you that you'll have to tell everybody your real name. If you want to use, if Davio wanted to come on, he wants to use Davio 22, then he can use his screen name. I want to protect people's privacy as well. We know what's happened in the chase with things like that. So absolutely, I'm there to protect people's privacy. But if you're wanting to come on the show, the least you're going to do is you're going to have your face on there. We're going to put, that to me is the main thing. If you want to use a pseudonym or whatever, that's perfectly fine. And I would just, expect people to understand that and probably respect that. So I'm seeing some posts and stuff from you guys. So I'm just going to go through here and just go over them really quick. Nodine, how are you? Adventures in Dirt, how are you? Good to see you in here. Yeah, Jimmy, again, I don't have plans to go to Fenbury. It's really close. I got some other plans going on. It's 4th of July weekend with kids, stuff like that. Mike Nodine, you are well past Lou and Corvette Ronnie's bedtime. No, I'm not. You got to understand, Lou and Ronnie are on the West Coast. So right now it's 9 o'clock over there for them. Is it 9 or 10? I can't remember what the time difference is. I think it's an hour difference. So it's only 9 o'clock for those guys. So when we do a show, it'll be an hour difference for those guys, I'm sure. I think those guys like to drink beer. I think I've heard them. So hopefully we'll get them on the show and have a beer with them. If I can't sit down with somebody because they're so far away, at least I can sit down and have a beer with all 65 of you guys here in the chat room. So cheers. So another thing I'm planning on doing too is, we have a 4th bedroom back here that we closed off when we purchased this house, and I'm going to try and do my best to set up a studio in there. I've never been big on, green screens or a lot of. I'm not really a big techie guy, honestly, but I'm going to try and do my best to set up something that is, what's the word I'm looking for? More. Kind of like a studio that seems a little bit more professional, but I've always been pretty adamant about trying to keep the show very simple so that it is duplicatable. So if somebody's out there that is watching the show, they don't think that they have to put on some big giant presentation and have green screens and, dual screens here and super duper, high speed cameras and all this other stuff. I'm trying to keep it simple because I really want people just, if you've got ideas, I want people to be able to duplicate it and put that stuff out there. So I want something that's very simple for people to do. So I don't know if I've talked enough about that. So I'm not doing a Tuesday show this coming week. Tomorrow, the first show will be on July 2nd. It'll probably be at 9 p.m. And one of the big reasons for that too is, just my family situation. It works best for, my 2 kids who are 5 and 3. A lot of times my wife works, 2 to 3 nights a week during in the evening. So she works from like 6 in the evening till 6 in the morning. So, I've got the kids. That's usually kind of the best time to do it because then I get the kids settled down. We can do the show that way. So it just kind of works good for our dynamic, our family dynamic, and also because the show is beer drinking, non-PC stuff like that. It's not tailored to the younger crowd. So I like the later hours. GCG, what'd you say? Your Hint of Riches topic. Yes, GCG. I was going to talk about that. I did see your comment today, and I will talk a little bit about that. If I don't, remind me because I did make a note over here. I got a couple of notes. It's just some random stuff I want to talk about tonight, and I'm trying to keep the show to 1 hour tonight. But you know me, I go on rants and I'll end up some rabbit hole somewhere else. So just there was just a few things I really wanted to talk about tonight, and really it centers a lot around Sasha. Sasha Johnson's been really busy this week with a lot of things. We've had and it wasn't this week, but we've had the Money Magazine article come out. We had the video come out. Sasha was on CNN, and then she put out a couple of really good videos this week. If you haven't watched them yet, you definitely need to go watch them. But she's been doing a really good job also with going back over the scrapbooks and 5 at a time, which I think is really interesting. And there was a great discussion last week, that I was watching in there and was partaking into. I think I had a couple beers, but was having fun. But anyway, Sasha's done a great job. She I thought she was an excellent advocate for us and representative for all of us in the chase on CNN. My political beliefs, I'm not a big fan of CNN, but I watch both CNN and Fox because I try and stay as neutral as I can. But I thought she did a great job on CNN, so props to you, Sasha, for that. You already know that. I commented to you on that. But she's doing that scrapbook reviews. I think she's doing an outstanding job on that, guys. You got to go over there and watch it. If you haven't subscribed to her channel, you got to go subscribe to her. She's got a great mind, and she does some good analysis on stuff. So cheers. And then one thing I was listening to today is while I was working, kind of listen to it like a podcast. You know, Sasha's great to look at, but you know, I'm putting it in my pocket and I'm just listening to it as I go. But she did a review of the 2013 6 questions with Forrest Fenn, and you know, her saying that these were the first words, you know, written words we had gotten from Forrest Fenn in the chase. I didn't really fact check that, but I'm pretty sure that's pretty accurate. You know, other than, you know, potential emails people were getting, but those weren't obviously publicly put out there for everybody. I'm just checking the chat room here. My thing was way down. Yeah, Alan K, love to have you on. Again, guys, I see I've gotten a couple of emails here. I haven't checked them yet. I'm just going to get through this stuff really quick. But then Illinois Ghost did a short video here the other day talking about removing items from the search area. And I just thought, you know, he was on his vacation, I think, out there in Florida or wherever he was, and he was just kind of asking people that. And I jokingly, you know, threw in there, yeah, getting sick and tired of all these people moving the treasure everywhere. You know, just obviously joking. But I don't think anybody moving any objects besides the treasure itself is something we really have to worry about. I think Forrest Fenn has kind of talked about that a little bit in that question that we got last year about decoys and all that. So I personally don't see that there's anything in the immediate search area that if you moved would affect finding the treasure. Now, a lot of people think that the blaze is a mark on a tree or a rock or something like that. And who's to say that's wrong? In my interpretation, I don't see it that way. And maybe that may be something that Rick is referring to, because I've found, you know, artifacts and stuff that interests me, and I've walked away with those things, you know, and taken them home with me, and rocks that I always bring rocks home for the kids, and, you know, cool shiny rocks that I find or whatever, you know, ones that are about the size of a hen's egg, weigh about a pound. I give them to them. I don't know what to do with them. But yeah, I mean, I bring stuff back from my search area. You know, people leave stuff in their search area. We've got people who got searcher coins they take out there. Most of them leave them on eBay, but they're supposed to be leaving them out in their search area, you know, to let other people know that, you know, somebody else has been there, I guess. Anyway, so I don't know, Rick, I really didn't see, you know, any effect of people removing items or whatever from the search area. What, sweetheart?
I want some water.
You want some water? Give me 1 sec, guys. Got to take care of the daughter. You want it in your little cup?
In my water bottle.
You want in this one?
Yeah.
Okay. We know we have to do bubbles too.
Okay. Because when we get hydrated, we don't have to share.
I know. And you guys are still probably way too late. You're supposed to be sleeping.
I mean, still up.
Why don't you take this and then I'll take that one to you, okay? Okay. Wait here. I'll do this one. Ready? Wait.
Okay.
I'll let you take it to me.
Okay. I'll take both of them.
Okay. And you gotta close your door, okay? Because you guys are still too loud, okay?
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Love you.
Love you too, Dad.
All right, guys. Back. Yeah, GCG. She managed that. You know, the interview great. You know, I thought she definitely holds her own. She's done plenty of live shows. She knows how to deal with it. So good job for her. Chris Yates, hey, I see you in there. Good to see you. Give me truth, man in the park. How are you? So yeah, again, Rick, I just didn't see anything that would be issues with people removing things in the search area, other than the treasure chest itself and not providing, some kind of irrefutable proof to the search community that's been found. So we know not to look for it anymore. So now, I want to talk a little bit about the Money magazine, the video and the article. And I thought it was really funny, and I know probably a lot of you have probably noticed this, and I posted this on the video in the comment section, that Forrest Fenn, when he recited the first stanza, he completely recited it wrong. And I had jokingly said, hey, Forrest Fenn, sounds like you need to go back and read the poem 6, 8, 10 times, maybe even memorize it. And just yanking the guy's chain a little bit. And I think a couple people got offended with that, thinking that I was being rude and give the guy a slack. I'm like, whatever, it took this guy 20 years to write this thing. He should know what the poem is. But was he giving us a hint in there because he said I keep the secrets where, instead of my secret where? So I just thought it was funny, and I was just yanking on Fenn's chain a little bit about that. Some people kind of thought I was being rude to him. Okay. Hold on, GCG. So one thing he said around the 5-minute mark in that video, he said, and I'll read this verbatim. He said, "You need to read the clues in my book and study the clues and get a good map and try to marry the map to a certain place." And I find that very interesting that he said certain place, because it reminds me a lot of him, saying that, I warned the path would not be direct for those who had no certainty in the location beforehand, but sure for the one who did. So he's talking about a certain place, a very specific place. And the word certain is to mean very specific or direct. It's a very certain place. Again, it's that, potentially either the treasure's location, the resting spot, or the region it rests within, or the starting place. But I thought it was very interesting, his usage of the word certain place. But that whole comment by him kind of mirrors what he told us in the 2017 6 questions, where he had said, I would advise new searchers to look for the clues in my poem and try to marry them to a geographical place, geographical location. So it kind of mirrors that a little bit. And it seemed like to me like he was slipping, or was he trying to say it a different way? Because he's always said, look for the clues, or he said, look for the clues in my poem and try to marry. And this one he's saying, you need to read the clues in my book. Was he trying to say poem or book? It really doesn't think it mattered, because we know there's subtle clues in the book, and there's 9 clues, in the poem. So they're all in his book. I don't think it really matters. But again, he's saying, study the clues, pay close attention to them and really study them and try to marry them to a certain place on a map. But, and then he said about that certain place and research it. But then that kind of, to me, is he telling us to really research that map and look at the map, trying to maybe marry the rest of the clues to that map, or research that geographical area? And I know a lot of people, you will remember him stating in that New Zealand interview, when the interviewer had asked him, will you have to have any local geographic knowledge? And Forrest Fenn said no. The first clue in my poem is begin at where warm waters halt. So he's trying to tell us you don't have to have any local geography knowledge or geographic knowledge of the area. But then he's telling us, to marry it to a certain place and then research it. So it's, I don't know, what's he trying to say there? Am I reading too much into this? Maybe I am. But then he also said something in that video that kind of stood out to me too. And I'll read this verbatim, what he said in there. Maybe some of you guys caught this too. He said, "The place where I hid the treasure is a place that was very dear to me. And when they told me I was going to die, the first thing I thought about was, if I'm going to die, I want to die out in the mountains. I don't want to die in a hospital room." Now, hasn't he told us that he knew where he wanted to hide the treasure chest from the point hatched this whole idea, and people have asked him, is the place where you wanted to have your bones rest with the treasure chest the exact same place where you hid it? And he said, yes, it's the exact same place. Of course, I'm paraphrasing it, but that's pretty much what Forrest Fenn had said. But if Forrest Fenn says in his book that his church is in the mountains and along the river bottoms where dreams and fantasies alike go to play, then maybe it's as simple, and again, here's this whole simplified thing, but maybe it's as simple as just the Rocky Mountains as a region in itself is that special place to him. And if he knew all along where he wanted to hide it, he knew that he wanted to hide it in the Rocky Mountains. And we know he has obviously an affinity for Yellowstone National Park and all the time that he spent there. But Yellowstone National Park does reside within the Rocky Mountains. And there's been many places in Montana that have been special to him. There's probably many places in New Mexico and Colorado that, all fall within the region or locale of the Rocky Mountains itself. So is it not just possible that that overall special place is just the Rocky Mountains in itself? And it is us searchers who try and, force fit our idea what must be special to Forrest Fenn within there, and I think Sasha kind of touched on this a little bit in her, review of the 2013 6 questions, where Forrest Fenn had said, and I'm going to totally paraphrase this, that he had said he was pretty surprised at how quickly people were, going to Google Earth and maps looking for their special place. And I think, even Sasha kind of touched on this. I think she caught on to that too, because the key word in there was their special place. So again, it is us searchers that are then perusing maps and Google Earth within the Rocky Mountains, trying to find what we believe is the special place. But that special place is just what we are imposing our beliefs of what must be special to Forrest in there, based on, the words in the book, not necessarily the poem. And when I think that's a little bit backwards, and I talked about that in my one video about, Forrest Fenn's special place or whatever it was, about how we unwillingly, force fit our interpretation of what must be special into this locale. When in reality, that special place may be nothing more than just the great outdoors in the Rocky Mountains itself. Again, like he said, I knew exactly where to hide the treasure. It's somewhere in the mountains north of Santa Fe. And what mountains are in north of Santa Fe? Now, people, they get so tightly focused and say, oh, it must be the San Diego Cristo Mountains, because those are the ones that are precisely north. But the San Diego Cristo Mountains are part of the entire Rocky Mountains. They're just a subset of it, right? Doesn't make it right. Just kind of my thoughts. So I know I've seen my name pop up in there a whole bunch of times. And so I'm just going to go through here real quick and touch on a couple of these things, guys. So give me a second to scroll up here. You guys know I don't have a producer or anybody else with me. So yeah, got a good group in here tonight. 75 people right now. That's good. Sheets Trove, that's a new one I've never seen. Unemployed Texan, your name is Mud. Okay, that's a new name I haven't seen. So I see where GCG said your hint of riches topic is a good one. Yep, we'll touch on that quick, because I did see something you said in there. Alan K, yeah, if you're interested in coming on, shoot me an email if you haven't already. We'll set something up. Again, guys, I always like to try and do a test. So if you're going to be on, if you're going to want to come on the show, the big picture, then we'll do a test and all that before. Make sure you got it's simple. I mean, do it off your phone if you really wanted to. Yep, GCG, she managed the interview absolutely well. Yep. Yeah, GCG, the TV reporter quoted Forrest Fenn as saying we won't have to disturb anything. Yeah, I think the only thing that comes close to that I think Forrest Fenn has said about disturbing anything is Forrest Fenn had said, and I paraphrase, you won't have to break anything. And a lot of people interpret that as, okay, you're not gonna have to break the law, you're not gonna have to break ground, you know, I mean, not to break wind. I mean, shit, we don't know, you know, what does he mean by that? To me, I interpret that as, you know, we're not gonna have to break any laws. Because I think that was centered around, you know, there were some people that were looking into going in private property and places that obviously they were breaking the law to do. But I don't think he's ever, I could be wrong. Again, guys, I'm not an authority on the chase. I don't have every single quote down. But generally, if I say something, you know, or quoting or paraphrasing Forrest Fenn, I'm 90% confident I know what I'm saying and that I'm quoting it as accurately as I can. And there's been some people that question me, you know, like, where was that? You know, we're going to delete your comment because that's not in there. So I'm not going to post something in there that I don't think is truthful, or say something that I don't believe is truthful. But fact check me. I mean, geez, I had people getting mad at me for that. And I'm like thinking, in 2 minutes, by doing a simple Google search with some keywords, I had the answer to that. Why that person couldn't have done that on their own, I was like, how in the heck do you expect to find Forrest Fenn's treasure if you can't find that quote within a 2-minute Google search? I'm like, come on, guys, you know, seriously. I thought he was specifically talking about removing clues. You can't remove clues. I mean, what are you going to move? You think that I don't think that anything in that poem, clue-wise, can be removed. I don't think Forrest Fenn, if he's thinking 1,000 years down the road, Tom Sawyer, that there's not going to be anything out there that you can physically move that would totally ruin the chase for everybody else. Now, Mother Nature could. It's possible that Mother Nature could, but not, you know, us humans. I don't think anything is feasible for us to remove out there other than the treasure chest itself. I don't think that there's no, again, I've joked about this several times. There's no road sign out there that says, welcome to Warm Waters Halt. You know, here's the home of Brown. You made it. Here's a big sign pointing towards the blaze. Could I be wrong? Minute chance, but I really don't think so. So I don't think there's any possibility that one could remove a clue or anything else out there. Absolutely not. I'll jump up and down on my hat and claim that that's not possible all day long. Right, Anagram, I see your post there. Yeah, Bruber said she moved the 40-pound blaze rock. Okay. I don't think so, because that's feasible, you know, and as tough as she says she is, I'm sure she can move a 40-pound rock and take it back to her car if she wanted to, right? Come on. Yeah, Chris, exactly, Chris. He said you don't have to move any large rocks, right? He said that. There's a lot. I mean, large is all subjective, right? I mean, what you think is a large rock might be a small rock to somebody else. But sure, Chris, you're pointing out a good point. That came out of I think it was shortly after the whole Paris Wallace, when we lost Paris, right? And he was talking about these safety things, and he was saying you wouldn't have to cross any large precipices, or you wouldn't have to move any large rocks, right? That was one of the things he was talking about. The treasure wasn't underwater. That was another thing he talked about in there. GCG said, at the flip side, also the last story he told about mowing yards is just the same story as in my Spanish toy factory. Mowing yards. I lost you on that one, GCG. I'm not, if you're thinking about something in Too Far to Walk, I have the book Too Far to Walk. I've read it maybe twice, and then maybe a story out of there, and I haven't put a whole lot of effort into that book. And you guys know me, I'm you know, the poem purist, so the evil poem purist. So I don't pay that much attention to the books. All right, I'm catching up here. GCG, the flip side, the word it refers to something in the sentence specifically. Yes, if you're talking grammatically, it, you know, grammatically that word is used to refer to something that is easily identified in that sentence. previously spoken about or about to be talking about. So it's something easily identified. Begin it where warm waters halt and take it in the canyon down. So what is it? And we all have different interpretations of this. But yeah, a lot of people don't believe in grammar because it's a poem, and poetry doesn't have to go with that. Okay, sure. Mike Nodine, almost every search search has been searched with confidence and still no luck. So how can there be any certainty that a particular solve is correct? Mike, his recent, I'd go back to this whole 2014 statement by him in Scrapbook 78, where he said, first of all, I've never said anyone has been within 12 feet of the treasure. It is highly unlikely that anyone would get that close and not find it. Going back to what GCG just said prior to you, it refers to something that has been previously mentioned or easily identified within that sentence or clauses, whatever. So when he's saying, I've never said anyone has gotten within 12 feet of the treasure, it is highly unlikely that anyone would get that close and not find it being the treasure chest. So now, again, I asked him that question. Okay, Forrest, then in 2014, you said it was highly unlikely anyone would get that close and not find it. Do you wish to, give us an update on that? And Forrest then turned around and said, better not answer that question, Sean. Sorry. So in my mind, again, this is just could be confirmation bias and me reading into what Forrest then is saying. He didn't even have to answer that question, Mike. He could have simply just let it go in one ear and out the other. He does that with 99% of all of our emails, right? Probably 99.75% of them, and never answers them. He didn't have to answer at all, but the answer that he gave told me, well, it didn't tell me anything. It leads me down a rabbit hole to think that it's possible that one of these solves that a searcher put out there, they were theoretically within 12, 13 feet of that thing and walked right past it because, as he has said, I'm rarely told exactly where searchers are searching. So I don't know if they are getting closer or not. Him stating that he is rarely told exactly where people are searching does imply that he is sometimes told exactly where searchers are searching. So those that are potentially telling him exactly where they're searching could have been somebody that was within 12 feet of it and walked right past it. They were like Fred. They were blind. They didn't see it, That's just kind of my interpretation of it. So, those people, maybe they were confident in their solve, but because they weren't so confident, didn't have it nailed down, they never went back. And they were within 200 feet, maybe within 12, but they didn't find it. And that's just not close enough, right? According to Forrest. So I think I've beaten that one enough. Chrissy H, flip side, do you have a first clue identification? If so, you should share it. What do you mean, do I have a first clue? Are you saying, do I have it identified? We all have it identified in the clue, in the poem, right? It's begin it where warm waters halt. Now, whether you think that that's the entire clue, or you think it's an oversimplified version of the clue, I believe that the whole first clue is the whole sentence, that second sentence in the poem. Begin it where warm waters halt and take it in the canyon down, not far, but too far to walk. I read that as an entire clue. If you oversimplify it, in my opinion, you get just begin it where warm waters halt. I think, as Forrest Fenn has said, no, if you just go based off of those two clues, now I know I'm going to get this one wrong. This is one of my favorite quotes, and I can't even remember off the top of my head, what he says to that guy. Well, anyways, he basically paraphrased by saying, no, if all you have to go on are those two clues, that is somewhere in the mountains north of Santa Fe and begin at where warm waters halt, you can't proceed with confidence. You oversimplify the clues. There are many places in the Rocky Mountains where warm waters halt, and nearly all of them are north of Santa Fe. Look at the big picture. There are no shortcuts. And to me, the big picture, Chris, is the entire poem. And some people look at the big picture as a picture in the book itself. Some people look at, the entire book. me, when I think he's referring to the big picture, is the poem as its entirety. That just begin at where warm waters halt is a condensed version of the entire clue, in my opinion. But no, it doesn't mean I should share it. I've told you what I think the first clue is the entire sentence, but I'm not going to share my interpretation of what that is. You're going to have to pay me a hell of a lot of money for me to give that up, and I'm not about making money. You guys know that. I'm one of the very few channels that doesn't monetize. It doesn't, do super chats or ask for donations or anything like that. I'm not knocking anybody else. It's just, and there's kind of a big reason for me for that. And this is not something I've ever really hit on, but if I had a bunch of people sending me money and stuff to help donate my channel and help everything else, and I find the treasure, right? Who's to say, like Sassy, I'm not going to have people trying to sue me? Well, shit, I gave Sean $500 in super chat money. I helped him fund his trip. There's plenty of lawyers out there that would probably jump all over that. So that's a big, this is just my thrill of the chase. I'm having fun. I'm not trying to knock other people for stuff they do. Make money if you want to in this. That's just not what I'm trying to do in it. And part of that is because I'm a non-paid spokesperson, like I've said before. I don't want people like lobbyists trying to send me money and trying to direct me how to direct this show. Or if I find this, I have just as much chances as any one of you guys in here of finding this. I don't want somebody to say, well, heck, I sent that guy money, I'm going to sue him for the solve and for a piece of that. No. Hey, Bill Gorman, how are you? Plato mentioned warm and cold waters in Critias. I'm not familiar with that. Bill, I'll have to look that one up. Make a note of that. I'll look that up, Bill. GCG, it is a specific place. Yeah, it can be, sure. Could be the starting point, right? We're all supposed to begin it. Where, right? Again, just all depends on how you read and how you compartmentalize clues. It's a very simplified way to look at it. The 9 senses could be the 9 clues. It's the way I look at it. Doesn't mean it's right. I still always ponder, why does he tell us 9 clues? He didn't have to tell us that, right? GCG, yes, we are inserting our own interpretation to his poem. Yeah. I mean, again, isn't it like what he says to that? And it's a very interesting response to a middle school class where they're asking him, you say canyon down and warm waters and all this stuff. Is it referring to a waterfall? And he responds by saying, you guys sure are hung up on waterfalls. Don't try and force fit my or your ideas into my poem. The same thing with the whole obtuse thing, where he responds to that person when they use obtuse, and he says, obtuse means annoying, so let me throw that back at you and paraphrase. If all of you have such great ideas about the solve, how can they all be wrong? Well, they're all wrong because they're our ideas. We keep trying to force fit our interpretation into Forrest Fenn's poem. Now, it's nearly impossible not to do, because we're all subjective human beings. We're all going to read his words and interpret them in our own way, based on our own specialized knowledge, our things that we've read, the rabbit holes we go down, everything else. How do we remain objective? That's what's so difficult. That is one of the biggest challenges in this chase. I mean, none of us are completely 100% objective. Even if you're a poem purist, there's no absolute way to remain 100% objective. Again, it's not the words that are objective. It is us as searchers and readers of that poem that are trying to remain objective, and trying not to let our emotions and specialized knowledge and everything else guide us. And it's hard to do, guys. I mean, we've all done it. And GCG, I am going to talk about that really quick before we get off here. Okay, so let me talk about what GCG was talking about, and I'm just going to go over here real quick and pull it up. And I started a thread last week, I think it was, about, did Forrest Fenn answer my question of whether or not there's a water crossing in the poem. And if you guys aren't familiar with this, I had a video that I put out last March, I think it was, called To Cross or Not to Cross. That is a question. And you can go back and watch this video if you haven't. But it's centered around, you know, is there a water crossing, you know, in the path that the poem leads us? And in there was a specific part of that where I had said something to the fact, and maybe I can find out where I said this. I'll have to go to page 1 really quick. And we're coming up on an hour here, guys, and I do want to wrap this up. Where did I say that? There was a featured Q&A that came out in August of 2018. It said, "Dear Mr. Fenn, once you hid the treasure, did you take the exact same route in reverse to return to your car? Thank you, Tyler Y." And Forrest then responded, "Yes, I did, Tyler. It was the most direct route." And I'm going to play just, it'll take me a second to get this right here, guys, so bear with me. See if I can get this right. Hold on, where was that time mark? Okay, the 8:30 minute mark, see if I can get to that. And I'll play you, all you're going to do is hear the audio because I'm not on Zoom, so I can't share my screen. Come on, I've done this before, really. Okay, so just listen to this.
Pick it back up. So, you know, getting back to the point, you know, my question would be to Forrest, and I think all of our questions would be to Forrest, you know, in the guise of being safe, is to ask Forrest, you know, in the act of hiding the treasure, did you cross a waterway, you know, in between where you parked your car and where you hid the treasure? Now, sure, you know, we could ask him, did you have to cross a waterway? Well, if you ask him that, we know how Fenn's going to answer. He's going to turn around and say, well, no, I didn't have to. I chose to because it was the most direct route. But no, I could have walked the extra 4 or 5 miles to go this way. But, you know, carrying 40 pounds or trying to do that 2 times in one afternoon would be nearly impossible, even for somebody who's in pretty good shape. So
okay, so yeah, you know, the question in that video I asked him was, hey, Forrest, Fenn, in the act of hiding the treasure, did you have to cross a waterway? And like I had jokingly said in there, well, we all know how Forrest Fenn's going to answer that. He's going to say, well, no, I didn't have to. I did because it was the most direct route. Now, again, guys, this is completely can be, and I honestly have to admit, it can be complete confirmation bias run amok, no doubt about it. But it's just it was just a thought process, and I asked everybody, did they think he was answering this question that, you know, that he said to you know, this Tyler Y guy, you know, did you take the same route in reverse when hiding the treasure? You know, and Forrest Fenn said, yes, I did. It was the most direct route. And again, we know Forrest Fenn followed the clues in the poem when he hid the treasure, but he hid the treasure before the poem was complete. So he was following those clues. He took the most direct route. So it was the same exact route as he says in the one question. And then he went back the same way, like he answers in the same one. So I don't know I can't prove, you know, without a doubt that there is a water crossing in there. But you've got to go back to that video and some of the things I brought up, you know, the fact that he never rules out water crossings, you know, even when given the opportunities, he talks about waders and the right kind of waders and stuff to use versus, you know, saying, keep your ass out of water, you know, it's not in water, or he says it's not underwater, but he's not saying it's not in water, right? I mean, you can read it both ways. And I'm not telling people get out there and cross rivers, you know, I mean, like I said, there's several times in that video, there's, you know, more than one way to skin a cat. You know, you might have to go the long way around because you need to be more safe. But Forrest Fenn, because he's 79 or 80 years old and carrying 20 pounds, you know, he can't walk 8-10 miles in one afternoon. I'm not saying he couldn't do it in a complete day, but the likelihood of him walking, you know, 3 miles one way to the treasure hiding spot from where he parked his car and back would equal about 12 miles in one afternoon. I don't know many 79 or 80-year-old men that could do that. Not that there isn't. There's still guys out there in their 70s and 80s running marathons. Probably pass me up, but I don't think that's what he did. So let me get back to a little bit about what GCG was talking about, Gregory was saying. And Greg, I don't think you'll mind. I'm going to read your post here, but it's public. Everybody can find it over on Thor. But he says, Sean, I know exactly what you mean when you say confirmation bias run amok. Absolutely. Basically, in your video, you introduced the idea the most direct route when hiding the treasure might require water crossing, elevate a safe one. I always have a problem pronouncing that word. To the treasure location via the 9 clues. When Forrest makes it a point, first to pick a question regarding the clues, and then second to say returning to his car, he retraced the route because it was the most direct way. Personally, I believe he is confirming the need for a safe water crossing of some kind. I agree with you. That's why Gregory, he hasn't completely ruled it out. He hasn't told us stay out of the water. After, Randy got lost in, near Bandelier. He ended up saying, what the heck was he doing there? It wasn't north of Santa Fe, and it's not in the Rocky Mountains or something along that lines. When just months prior to that, he was telling us if you knew exactly where the treasure chest was, you could probably retrieve it in any weather. And he was also telling us that, if Bandelier National Monument has to be considered because it's on my too far to walk map. Now, I'm not trying to blame Forrest Fenn for Randy's poor decisions. I'm just saying that were those kind of confirmations to somebody like Randy that it still possibly could be Forrest Fenn's special spot. You've got to admit, as any other rational searcher, that those could have been things that spurred Randy to make a bold move like he did. And it's unfortunate what happened. But Forrest Fenn never ruled out a water crossing. Same thing happens with Paris. Same thing happens with Eric. These guys, lose their lives due to failed water navigations, and given the opportunity, Forrest Fenn still hasn't ruled it out. I'm not saying it is, but it makes me ponder, well, in the guise of safety, why hasn't he ruled it out? So yeah. And then GCG goes into one of his ideas where he says, and this is one of his personal examples of confirmation bias. And Gregory, just tell me real quick if you don't want me to read that. It's not a personal email or anything. It's right there on Thor, but I can't imagine you would have a problem with me reading it. You guys can find it yourselves over there, but anyway. But he goes in to say his personal example is over on Dow's website. He said, I introduced the idea that the definition of the word rooted is in line 15 of the poem, but Terry Scant with Marvel Gaze. Definition of rooted is to cause someone to stand immobile in amazement. And I totally agree with that. Terry Scant is to mean to hesitate. Scant is to mean a little or few, and then with Marvel Gaze. So you're hesitating a few with Marvel Gaze, right? You're hesitating, with staring at something in awe, as he's kind of stating here. You're causing someone to stand immobile in amazement. Again, like he says, look quickly down, your quest to cease. You're using the infinitive word to before the word or verb cease. So your quest hasn't ended. You're standing, you're looking down at something, and he's saying your quest to cease. So your destination awaits, that's possibly he's saying, but you haven't yet moved, right? But Terry Scant with Marvel Gaze, he's saying to stay rooted, mobilize in amazement for a few. Just take the chest and go in peace. Then you get later, right? What is he trying to say in there? So yeah, and then he's saying, people were asking, where the hell did I come up with that? And then Gregory goes on to say, but then this year with Jenny's last question, where Forrest was given the opportunity to say anything he wants, and his final last words inside of 6 questions format, he chose to say, I'm content with knowing that the chase has rooted itself in hearts that will help it grow far beyond what I first imagined it could. So yeah, in Gregory's own thing, he's come up with this whole word rooted, meaning Terry Scant with Marvel Gaze. And then Forrest Fenn, the last words, he uses that word rooted in there. I completely get it. You're like, holy shit, he's talking to me. And he might be, you know? So we've all had those moments where we read a scrapbook or we read a weekly word or an interview with Forrest, and you just think that, oh my God, he's speaking directly to me. We can't help it. I mean, we all are looking for that confirmation. I mean, we're not looking for confirmation bias. We're looking for confirmations. It's our bias that tends to make us believe that what we're reading or hearing or whatever it is confirmations of our pre-existing beliefs. That's the definition of confirmation bias. And it's nearly impossible to completely rule it all out. I just think you have to mitigate as much as possible. Much of that noise will help mitigate confirmation as much as possible. My two kids are just hollering at each other back there. Anyway, guys, I know we're creeping up. We're over an hour already, so just over it. So I'm gonna wrap this up, guys. Again, really the meat and potatoes of what I want to do this show tonight is to tell you guys that I'm going to change the format of the show. I am looking for those that are interested in coming on the show and want to participate. Again, one of the key rules of that is that you will have to show your face. If you want to use a pseudonym, use your screen name that you use on the forums or here in the chat rooms, I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm not going to sit there and ask you to fill out a 500-word essay or survey and asking you for your email address, your PayPal account, everything else. This is just, you know, to have a conversation with another searcher. And my kids are going wild, so I'm going to have to jump off here, guys. So I'm looking for your feedback. Again, here's my email address for you guys. I'll put it in the chat room. It's there. If you guys are interested in coming on the show, send me an email. Send me your thoughts on this. If you have any ideas, I love ideas. You know, I love running with people's ideas. So send me some ideas. If you're interested, again, if you're interested in coming on the show, send me an email and we'll go from there. What's wrong, sweetheart? Okay, well, Daddy will be right there, okay? All right, guys, I gotta go. It's been great having you guys in here tonight and hope you've enjoyed the show. And we will catch you all on the flip side. Have a good night.